guys, Jug back to the channel. Today we've got another UFC preview and predictions, and this week we have got UFC 262. We are in Houston, Texas for the vacant lightweight championship of the world. Charles Oliveira is taking on the former Bellator lightweight champion in Iron Michael Chandler. What a main event we've got. Also, Tony Ferguson taking on Dariush in the co-main event. Jack Hermansson, Edmund Shahbazyan, Shane Burgos, Edson Barboza. What a card. We have 13 fights, and folks, if you have not yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more UFC preview and predictions here on the channel. And now let's get into the full card breakdown. So we start off the card here with Christos Giagos and Sean Soriano. We're going to start first with Christos Giagos. So his last fight was a win over Carlton Minus on the Wonderboy and Jeff Neal card over in December of 2020. Just beat down Carlton Minus in that fight. Minus's UFC run to not go that well. Giagos won that one 30-26, 29-27, and 29-28 on the final cards for that fight. And before that, for Giagos, he fought Dakar Close, UFC 241, lost that fight by unanimous decision. Before that, won a fight on Gustafsson Smith in Sweden, and then before that, won another fight in Adelaide, Australia. And then his first fight in the UFC was against Charles Oliveira. He did lose that fight by rear naked choke to the eventual lightweight championship challenger. We're going to see Oliveira later in the video. But yeah, that was his first fight in the UFC, currently 3-2 in the promotion. Also, he did fight Josh Emmett back in 2016, lost a TKO fight there in West Coast FC in Sacramento, California for their championship, I guess, their lightweight championship. His first run in the UFC for Giagos was in 2014. I didn't include that in the stats for this video, but his first fight was a loss to Gilbert Burns. He lost to Gilbert Burns at UFC 179 Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Aldo Mendes 2. He got armbarred in the first round. Nothing to be ashamed of right there. And then his second fight, he won. He beat Jorge de Oliveira by rear naked choke on Maia versus LaFleur in March 2015. And then he lost to Chris Wade in New Orleans on Boach versus Henderson. Then he got cut, fought Josh Emmett, made his way back in the UFC. Of course, fighting Charles Oliveira in 2018. For Christos Giagos, we saw him in the Carlton Minus fight. Pretty good stand-up game. He did outstrike Carlton Minus for that entire fight. Now, what does that really mean? Doesn't mean much, but he has looked good so far in the second run in the UFC. Giagos' ground game, not great, but the guys he's been submitted by, think about it, Gilbert Burns, Charles Oliveira is the two most recent submission losses that Giagos does have. But in this fight against Soriano, I think we're going to see a stand-up fight. But Giagos coming to this fight with a record of 18-8. Let's talk about his opponent here in the UFC returning fighter in Sean Soriano. And Sean Soriano is finally back in the UFC for the first time since January 18th, 2015, where he lost to Charles Rosa by Darce choke in the third round. That was on Conor McGregor versus Dennis Siver on Fox Sports 1. So think about this. The last time Sean Soriano fought in the UFC, Conor McGregor was still fighting on Fox Sports 1. Right? His second fight in the UFC, the fight before the Rosa fight, lost to Chad Skelly by unanimous decision over on Jacare versus Musawi over in Connecticut. And then his first fight in the UFC, lost on Safradine versus Lim over in Singapore, January 4th, 2014. Lost that fight by rear naked choke in the second round. Since then, Soriano's gone. He's fought in Legacy. He's fought in CES. He's fought in Cage Fury. He's fought in UAE Warriors. He's fought in various different promotions, but currently he is on that 3-fight winning streak. KO finish, decision finish, and a TKO finish most recently at UAE Warriors in March of this year. Soriano did have a fight for the CES featherweight championship, which he did lose by rear naked choke in the second round. So there's that. Soriano, again, has not been in the UFC since 2015. His striking is pretty damn good. Again, most recently picking up a lot of wins by finish on the feet, but when he gets to the ground, he is not great. He did just get submitted again for the featherweight championship over in CES. He's been submitted in CES twice. He did have 3 fights over there. He went 3-2, and 2 of those losses did come by submission. Then he saw in the first UFC run for Soriano, 2 out of the 3 fights were losses by submissions. Now, against Christos Giagos, I really don't anticipate a ground fight. I don't think we're going to get it. This is probably going to be a stand-up fight. Giagos known pretty much for his kickboxing. Soriano is known for the striking as well. So we're going to see that. Now, the problem with picking Sean Soriano in this one definitely is Sean Soriano is not going to get a training camp for this one. Most likely he won't be. Giagos has been preparing for a pretty damn good fighter in Joel Alvarez. He's not going to get Alvarez. He's going to get Soriano now. And based on that alone, I'm going to take Christos Giagos just because he's been in camp for this fight. He's been training for a while. Soriano, again, this is on 7 days notice, making his return to the UFC after 6 years. I'm going to take Christos Giagos. Again, just won in December of last year against Carlton Minus. I think he'll get the job done. I think he'll win it by decision. to start off this card. Next up, we've got Tucker Lutz taking on Kevin Aguilar. We're going to start first with Tucker Lutz, making his UFC debut in this fight, coming off back-to-back wins over in the Contender Series. One came in September, the other came in November. Both were decision wins for Lutz. Got the contract, of course, with that second fight on the Contender. Now turns around and takes on Kevin Aguilar in this one. Tucker Lutz, pretty good stand-up game overall. Before the Contender did fight in Shogun Fights, he was their lightweight champion over there. And yeah, coming to this fight with a record of 11-1. Lutz' stand-up game pretty damn good. His ground game is alright as well, but you see primarily more of his stand-up game. I did promise Dana White a finish in his last fight on the Contender. He did not get the finish, but Dana still gave him the contract, because basically if you want to fight in the Contender Series last season, you pretty much probably got a contract, because that's what Dana was doing. So Lutz got the contract. Now he's taking on a fighter who is 0-3 in the UFC, and Kevin Aguilar. So let's talk about Aguilar in full. And Kevin Aguilar's last fight in the UFC was a loss to Charles Rosa. He lost that one by split decision. And then before that, he fought Zubair Chahugov, lost that one by TKO in the first round over on Felder and Hooker in Auckland, New Zealand. And then before that, he fought Dan Ige, lost that fight by unanimous decision on the Moicano and Korean Zombie card in Greenville, South Carolina. Before that, went on a 3-fight winning streak to start off his UFC career. Wins over, well, one was on the Contender Series, a win over Joey Gomez. Then he goes and beats Rick Glenn, then Enrique Barzola. So now, currently 2-3 in the promotion for Kevin Aguilar. The stand-up game, tremendous. He was the former LFA featherweight champion. He won that thing off of Tony Kelly, I do believe. Yeah, he beat Tony Kelly, and then after that, he defended his first title defense, was against Damon Jackson. He got taken down a lot in that fight, eventually worked his way back up, caught Damon Jackson with a really nice right hand, put him down, and regained or retained the LFA featherweight championship. He defended that title for a very long time until he, of course, got onto the Contender, won it there, and then got immediately signed to the Ultimate Proving Ground, as John Anik would say. But yeah, Aguilar recently has not looked great, but given the guys they are giving him, Dan Ige, Tahugov, Rosa, three really good fighters. Kevin Aguilar still has a record of 17-4. We should see a stand-up battle here in this fight between Aguilar and Lutz. And I'm going Tucker Lutz. Yeah, I think Lutz continues the losing streak here of Kevin Aguilar in this fight. I think he's going to use the stand-up game to his advantage. I think overall, Lutz is the better striker between him and Kevin Aguilar. And I'm going to go with Tucker Lutz to win this fight by decision. Yeah, a little bit of a risky pick here. Lutz coming off the Contender. Odds about even on this one, and I know I messed up the graphic. I believe I have Kevin Aguilar as 1-3 in the UFC. He is 2-3, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Tucker Lutz to get the win here. I'm gonna go by decision. So we have got Gina Mazany and Priscilla Cachoeira. Sure, this fight's happening. That's really, I don't know. I mean, Priscilla Cachoeira coming to this fight, she's 1-3 in the UFC. She lost to Valentina Shevchenko in her debut in the promotion, so there's that. Then she lost to Molly McCann by unanimous decision. Then lost to Luana Carolina by unanimous decision. Then she beat Shanna Dobson, and if you beat Shanna Dobson in the UFC, who really knows? Because Shanna Dobson's current record is 4-5, just got released by the UFC after she lost to Casey O'Neill. So Cachoeira did beat her. She knocked her out in the first 50 seconds of their fight, caught her with an uppercut, and then she's supposed to fight Courtney Casey last year. That fight got to weigh-in day, and then Cachoeira couldn't make weight, so now we're here fighting Gina Mazany. Yeah, Cachoeira's stand-up game is okay. Yeah, she's all right on the feet. The Shanna Dobson fight did show, okay, yeah, she does have knockout power for a 25-pounder. That was on the Hooker and Felder card. Hey, she caught Shanna Dobson with an uppercut 50 seconds into their fight. Pretty nice uppercut right there, but if you look at the Valentina fight, and I know it's Valentina Shevchenko, she gets destroyed in that fight. The Molly McCann fight wasn't really that competitive either, and same with the Luana Carolina fight. I don't know what we're going to get at Priscilla Cachoeira, given she has been out of the octagon for 15 months at this point. So, it's just, who knows? Like, don't put money down in this fight. No one knows what's going to happen. Priscilla Cachoeira is currently 9-3, but most of those wins are in regional promotions over in Brazil, and the opponents she was fighting over there, basically all of them have negative records. So that's Cachoeira coming into this fight with a record of 9-3. Let's talk about her opponent here in Gina Mazany. And Gina Mazany's coming off a win over bare knuckle fighting's own Rachel Ostovich. She beat Rachel Ostovich, who her professional career is 4-6. So we have a fighter in Gina Mazany beat a fighter who's 4-6, and Priscilla Cachoeira beating a fighter who is currently 4-5. So this isn't, I mean, like, top 15 level fighting. Okay, this is kind of a winner or loser goes home fight. I mean, the winner of this fight we'll see in the UFC, obviously, but the loser might not be fighting in the promotion anymore. Gina Mazany, in her second run, I guess, in the UFC, because she did get released after she lost to Macy Chasson. She beats Valerie Barney and then comes back, loses to Julia Avila, and then beats Rachel Ostovich in the third round of their fight. I mean, if it means anything, I picked Rachel Ostovich to win that fight. I don't really know why. I just did, because who knew what we were going to get in that fight? And I don't know what we're going to get in a Gina Mazany Priscilla Cachoeira fight. I mean, Mazany's running the UFC. She's on the Ultimate Fighter. She loses to Juliana Pena, goes back, fights in Alaska FC. She wins the fight, gets the call back to the UFC, loses to Sarah McMahon, then beats Yannan Wu, which is an alright win, loses to Lena Landsberg, loses to Macy Chasson, wins over on King of the Cage, and then comes back, loses to Avila, beats Ostovich. So, Gina Mazany's wins in the UFC, I mean, in the last 5 years, is just Rachel Ostovich. And Rachel Ostovich has lost 6 times in her career compared to the 4 times that she's actually won. I'm gonna go Gina Mazany to win this fight just because I just don't think Priscilla Cachoeira is all that great. Mazany's alright. You saw that in the Ostovich fight. I mean, say what you want about Rachel Ostovich. I mean, Mazany looked okay on the feet with her. Cachoeira, barring a one-punch knockout by Priscilla Cachoeira, I don't think she wins this fight. I think Gina Mazany will probably be able to outwork Priscilla Cachoeira in this one. I don't necessarily think this is going to be a fight of the night candidate at all, but I think Mazany probably will do enough to grind out a decision in this one. So yeah, I'm going 3 straight decision fights in this one. I think Mazany gets it done though. Next up, we've got a fight here between Jamie Pickett and Jordan Wright, 2 former Dana White Contender Series fighters, and we're going to start first here with the Beverly Hills Ninja. Yes, it's Jordan Wright. His last fight, he lost to Joaquin Buckley, and this was at the very peak of the Joaquin Buckley hype. Buckley knocks out Jordan Wright in the second round of their fight. Unfortunate. Before that, Wright wins his UFC debut. He beats Ike Villanueva. I believe it was an elbow that cut Ike Villanueva's, it was above the eye, cut him open. The doctor stopped the fight, so Jordan Wright got the win in that one. Before that, fought in LFA. And then before the LFA fight, he fought on the Contender Series. He lost to Anthony Hernandez. That fight, though, did get overturned, but I do still have that fight in red for Jordan Wright because he did get knocked out in 40 seconds in that fight. And before that, fought in LFA, fought in Alaska FC, whatnot. So, Jordan Wright, the only one real loss on his record is his last fight to Joaquin Buckley, but Buckley's power is really damn good, and Jordan Wright just kind of stood there and was trying to trade with Joaquin Buckley, which is not going to work for you unless you're Alessio Di Chirico, and you're just going to head kick Joaquin Buckley in the face. But what I want to point out on this one, Jordan Wright's ground game is pretty solid, and now he's beating guys over in Alaska FC, and how are their ground games? I do not know, but I mean, just look at the guys Jordan Wright's been fighting outside the UFC, though. I just want to go over this real quick, all right? First fight, he fights a guy making his pro debut. That's understandable. Second fight, guy making his pro debut. Okay, sure. Third fight, fighting guys 0-5, and okay, I mean, I think that's all right. Okay, 0-5. Third fight, sure. Okay, fourth fight, he's fighting a guy making his pro debut. Not great. His fifth fight, he's fighting a guy who was 0-21. And Jordan Wright spinning back kicks him in 10 seconds. That fight is on the air now. I believe I showed that in the Jordan Wright versus Ike Villanueva preview. I think I did. I'm pretty sure I showed that one. Yeah, Jordan Wright just spinning back kicks him in the head in 10 seconds. Okay, after that, he fights fighters 0-10, 0-0, and then he fights this guy named John Stern over in Alaska FC. He fights him twice, actually. So they do. Jordan Wright beats him the first time by arm triangle choke. And then this guy that Wright was fighting, John Stern, right, he gets a win by omoplata, like, 2 weeks later. Then he fights again the next month, loses, and then they do the Jordan Wright fight with him again. What are we doing, Alaska FC? So Wright beats him twice in a row for him. Then he goes on to LFA, beats a guy, Craig Wilkerson, 7-3. Sure, loses to Anthony Hernandez, then beats a fighter in LFA who's 11-4, then beats Ike Villanueva, who is 17-10. I just don't know to really gauge how good Jordan Wright is, because sometimes, yeah, he does look really good, but he has been knocked out by Hernandez and Joaquin Buckley now to this point. But my big point in this one for Jordan Wright is use your ground game. We've seen Jamie Pickett get submitted before. I think that's where Jordan Wright will have the big advantage in this one, because if he stands with Jamie Pickett and throws with him, I don't think he's going to win. But if he can use his ground game, he uses wrestling, and uses jiu-jitsu effectively, I think the Beverly Hills Ninja will have a chance of winning this fight. So that's Jordan Wright. Let's talk about his opponent here in Jamie Pickett. In Jamie Pickett's last fight, he did lose to Tafon Chukwi, and we saw in that fight, Tafon Chukwi is a very good striker, but now in Tafon Chukwi's last fight against the Iron Turtle, Junyoung Park, just last week, he lost by majority decision. how one judge scored that a draw, I don't know, but Tefon Chukwi's ground game, not very good, but Jamie Pickett stood with Tefon Chukwi, and he lost that fight. And then before that, I got a win in the Contender Series. He fought twice in the Contender, actually. His first fight was a loss to Charles Byrd. He got submitted in the first round in that fight, and that's what I'm saying. Charles Byrd did submit him in their fight, and Charles Byrd no longer in the UFC, I do believe, because he did go 1-3 over there. And given he fought Darren Stewart, Shahbazyan, and Patola, but still, Jordan Wright might be able to do the same thing as Jamie Pickett. If Charles Byrd is able to do it, I think Jordan Wright can do the same thing. So that's just what I want to point out about Jordan Wright. But Jamie Pickett's stand-up game, very damn good. So far in his professional career, he's got 8 TKO wins. That's out of the 11 he does have. And his current record is 11 wins and 5 losses. But we did see in the Tefon Chukwi fight, Jamie Pickett can get hit. Tefon Chukwi hit Pickett with some bombs. Now, Pickett did not go down. He did stay on his feet, and he did not lose that fight by finish, but still, we saw that Pickett can get outstruck. Now, do I think Jordan Wright's going to be able to outstrike Jamie Pickett? I just don't think so. I think on the feet, this fight is pretty evenly matched, but if I were to give a chin advantage, I think this is a big point. I think, again, if these two guys were to stand there and trade equal amounts of power, I think Jamie Pickett will eventually put down Jordan Wright just because Jordan Wright's chin, again, I've seen it twice. He's already lost to Joaquin Buckley and Anthony Hernandez, and he has been TKO'd in pretty vicious fashion so far. So there's that. But Jamie Pickett, again, he is beatable on the ground. He is beatable, and I think I mentioned earlier he was on the Contender twice. He was actually on 3 times. He did lose to Punahele Soriano in a second bout in the Contender. The first one was against Charles Byrd, then Soriano, and then most recently he got the contract on the Contender Series. But Jamie Pickett, yeah, that is Jamie Pickett, very good striker. But I'm picking Jordan Wright, and yeah, it might seem like I was crapping all over the Beverly Hills Ninja. I'm still picking him. I think Jordan Wright can use his ground game well in this one, and I hope he does. I hope Jordan Wright tries to take down Jamie Pickett, and I hope he tries to submit him, because I think that is the clearest path to victory for him. And I think the path to victory for Wright is pretty simple. Again, take down, use your jiu-jitsu that you have done in the past. Got finishes in LFA with the rear naked choke, with multiple different submissions in Alaska FC as well. I like Wright in this fight just because of his jiu-jitsu and because of his wrestling. I'm gonna go with Jordan Wright by 2nd round submission. Yeah, I'm that confident in Jordan Wright going to the ground and picking up a finish win. And yeah, I think he gets it done by sub in the 2nd. Now we've got Antonina Shevchenko taking on Andrea Lee. We're gonna start first here with Antonina Shevchenko. Last fight, yeah, beat Ariane Lipski. Just came in there, yeah, used her wrestling really well and just TKO'd and ground pounded Ariane Lipski. Something I did not think that was going to happen. And then before that, yeah, she fought Katlyn Chookagian, and some way, somehow, Antonina Shevchenko was a favorite over Katlyn Chookagian. I do not understand that. I was on Woodley Burns. Go back to my video for that one. I said Katlyn Chookagian was going to win that fight, and it wasn't even going to be close. And that's what happened. Complete domination. I don't know how Antonina was a favorite going in that fight. Minus 155. What do we think? Katlyn Chookagian is on this card later on, but I didn't get the odds at the time. I still don't get them now. I mean, Katlyn Chookagian used her wrestling very damn well. It didn't put away Antonina Shevchenko, but it was a beat down on the ground. But we did see in Shevchenko's last fight, oh, okay, I can use my wrestling too, beating Ariane Lipski by TKO in the 2nd round using the wrestling again. But before that for Shevchenko, she beats Pudilova by her naked choke in the 2nd round. She loses to Roxanne Modafferi by split decision. And then before that, she beats Ji-Yeon Kim in her debut in the promotion by unanimous decision. Yeah, Antonina Shevchenko though, her kickboxing is pretty solid, and her ground game is getting better. Again, the Lipski fight, we did see she can go to the ground, but when she is faced with one of the more elite, I guess we're going to call Katlyn Chookagian elite at this point, one of the better fighters in 125, she is going to get beat. Now, I know this is always going to be a thing that's going to pop up. Can Antonina eventually fight for the 125-pound title just because of the last name? And would she ever fight Valentina? I don't think that's ever going to happen, even though you know Dana White would love to make that fight. Sister versus sister for the championship. I mean, that's money written all over it. It will never happen, I do believe, though. I don't think. I think if Antonina becomes the #1 contender or something like that, I think Valentina would rather go up to 135 than fight Antonina, even though if they were to fight, we know who's going to win that fight. Valentina would absolutely destroy Antonina Shevchenko on the ground, but that would never happen. But back to this fight, though. Yeah, Shevchenko versus Andrea Lee. I mean, again, for Shevchenko, yeah, she can go out there and strike with Andrea Lee, but if she just takes Andrea Lee down, I think that's a pretty good game plan for her, because Andrea Lee's ground game is all right, but I think Shevchenko does possess the advantage on the ground. Now, on the feet, say what you want about Andrea Lee, she did lose the fight to Roxanne Modafferi most recently. Her stand-up game is still pretty solid, and I've said this before, I thought she beat Lauren Murphy, UFC 247, that was a robbery. I don't know. I think Shevchenko, though, does have a very... She has an easy path to victory in this one. It's the takedown, and it's controlling this fight on the ground and basically doing the same thing that she did to Ariane Lipski to Andrea Lee. That is a tough task, though, because Andrea Lee is a top 10, maybe now top 12 fighter in the weight class. So let's talk about Andrea Lee in full. Now, Andrea Lee is on a 3-fight losing streak, and should it be? Probably not. I mean, the Joy and Calderwood fight, very close. Lauren Murphy fight, Lee won that fight. The Modafferi fight, yeah, Roxanne Modafferi won that fight, but I mean, Roxanne Modafferi, man, one of the more, I don't know, like infuriating fighters to watch sometimes when you're picking against her, because yeah, Roxanne Modafferi just finds a way to win fights. It's that simple. She'll just find a way to win a fight. Now, it didn't happen against Viviane Araujo, but hey, she beat Andrea Lee. She found a way to do it. It's just her like unique striking style. It's so weird at time, and yeah, she beat Andrea Lee. And if you want to talk about Andrea Lee's last 3 fights, all 3 of them went to decision. I thought you can make the case that she beat JoJo Calderwood. She definitely beat Lauren Murphy. You couldn't make the case, though, that she beat Roxanne Modafferi. So it does show that Modafferi, the veteran, she's fought so many damn times, but she's 25-18 now in her career. She is still a pretty solid fighter, the former title challenger in Roxanne, though. But Lee starting the UFC, she starts off, she wins a fight against Ashley Evans Smith. She beats Montana De La Rosa, then runs into the Calderwood, Murphy, and Modafferi fights. But she is, though, the former LFA flyweight champion. She won that over in 2017 after fighting in Invicta previously. Andrea Lee, though, striking is pretty damn solid. And I know the Modafferi fight, she did get outstruck in that one, but still, I think she is the better striker between her and Antonina Shevchenko. I think this is a pretty solid and pretty close fight on paper. But I think I'm going to give the slight advantage to Andrea Lee. Yeah, pick an Andrea Lee to win again. I think her striking is going to be too much in this one for Antonina. I think it's going to be a very competitive fight. I think it's going to be a close fight. I doubt we get a finish in this one either, but I think it's going to be a close fight where Lee is barely going to edge out Shevchenko in a decision. I think we are going to see this one hit the mat at various points in this fight. I think you're going to see Shevchenko look for the takedown, probably get it multiple points in this fight as well, but you're going to see Lee work the get-ups, eventually come back to the feet, work her strikes pretty well, use her kicks to her advantage, and I think she's going to barely edge out the decision on the judges' scorecards in this one. Now we have got Mike Grundy taking on Lando Groovy Vannata. We are going to start first with Lando Vannata. His last fight was a loss to Bobby Green on the Brunson Shahbazyan card in August of 2020. Really fun fight. It was the rematch of their first fight over on UFC 216. But Green got the job done by decision in that fight. And before that, for Lando Vannata, he beat Yancy Medeiros by unanimous decision on Anderson Blakovic 2 in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Before that, loses to Mark Takesi by unanimous decision. Before that, picks a win over Marcos Moriano by Kimura at UFC 234. Rewatched that fight recently. Now, that fight should have never been scheduled because Marcos Moriano, whatever his name is, Marcos Rosa Moriano, they got that guy off the streets real quickly. He only got 2 fights in the UFC. Dude, he was a tall 145 pounder, but, 155 pounder, but just a weird fight because Lando Vannata knocks him down and eventually gets him on the ground, gets the Kimura. It's over pretty quickly. Don't forget, that was a co-main event of a pay-per-view. Yeah, Lando Vannata versus Marcos Moriano was a co-main event, UFC 234, Anderson Silva versus Israel Adesanya. Good lord, I watched that card. Now, there are some fun fights in that card, but it is a weak main card. I'm just going to go over this real quick for you. Jimmy Crute versus Sam Alvey, Montana De La Rosa versus Nadia Keesum, Ricky Simone versus Hani Yahya, which, fun fight, but Ricky Simone kind of just dominates that entire fight. Vannata versus that Moriano guy, and Silva Adesanya, which is a good fight, but damn, that was a pay-per-view. People paid $60 for that. Holy crap. But yeah, Vannata beats Moriano by Kimura, and before that loses to Dakar Close by unanimous decision. Has the draw with Bobby Green I talked about earlier, loses to David Taymor, beats John McDessie by wheel kick at UFC 206, and then his UFC debut loses to Tony Ferguson in the second round in Sioux Falls, South Dakota on McDonald versus Lineker. Yeah, he fights Tony Ferguson in his UFC debut, believe is a short notice fight. And Ferguson actually does get dropped by Vannata in the first round, if I'm not mistaken, but Ferguson comes back and he wins that fight by Bravo choke, I do believe. But yeah, Vannata coming to this fight record of 11-5-2. Let's talk about his opponent here in the submission specialist, Mike Grundy. Now, Grundy's last fight was a loss to Movsar Evloev, and it happens, man. Evloev is a very good fighter, currently 14-0. I mean, back-to-back wins over Mike Grundy and Nick Lentz. it's a tough fight against Evloev. It just always is. But for Grundy, he beats Nadir Rahmani in his UFC debut on Tomas Vidal over in London, England. Finishes him with the TKO in the second round of their fight. And then before that, for Grundy, he goes on a big winning streak over in various promotions in England, Japan, and Brazil. And yeah, he did have one loss in 2015 by triangle choke, but for the most part, Mike Grundy's coming in there. He's beating guys by submission in Bama, in the Bamas of the world, in the ACBs, promotions like that. Going in there, just submitting guys, getting the hell out of there. Mike Grundy in this fight, I don't like him on the feet against Lando Vannata, because I think Vannata will probably beat him up on the feet if the fight does take place on the feet for the most part, but I don't see that happening. Mike Grundy's probably going to look for a takedown very early in this fight. Now, Vannata's ground game is solid, but Grundy's ground game is a lot better than Lando Vannata, and that's what he has to do to win this fight. Grundy most likely won't have trouble getting this one on the ground. I mean, again, tremendous wrestler is Mike Grundy. His submissions are good as well, but it is tough to put away Lando Vannata, and the only guy we have seen do it is Tony Ferguson, so it's tough to put him away. So once Grundy does take this fight to the ground, which he probably will unless he gets stunned by Vannata really early, it's going to be tough for him to finish this fight. I really think it's going to be tough for him, but I do think he is able to control Vannata in this one, and that's why I'm picking Mike Grundy to win this fight. I think the wrestling is going to be huge. He's going to be able to give Vannata to the ground at multiple different points in this fight, but it's going to be more important for him to try to fish for a submission. I don't think he's going to be able to, because again, Vannata is that good on the ground defensively. Now, Vannata's defensive wrestling, not that great, because to the point where it's Mike Grundy. Mike Grundy is going to take down Lando Vannata in this fight if he's going to have any path to victory, and that's what he's got to do. I think Mike Grundy's going to get the job done here. I think he's going to win this one by decision, just because it's very tough to put away Lando Vannata, and that's what we're going with. Next up, we've got a flyweight fight here between Rodrigo Bontorin and Matt Schnell. We will start first here with Bontorin. So his last fight was a loss to Cachoeira France, UFC 259. It's a weird stoppage, but I mean, Bontorin was out. It was kind of a Herb Dean. I don't know. Herb Dean didn't do a great job with this one. Cachoeira France knocks out Rodrigo Bontorin pretty much. Herb Dean kind of steps in there, ends the fight, and then Bontorin gets up, and Herb Dean's like, whoa, you're done, buddy. And then Cachoeira France comes back at him, and then says something that we don't know, and then Bontorin yells something back at him. France says something back to him again, and then Bontorin throws his mouthpiece at him. And that was basically the end sequence of that fight. But Cachoeira France did get the job done by KO at the very last seconds of the first round. Before that, for Bontorin, he loses to Ray Borg, Anderson Blakovic 2, Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and before that, beat Italian Paiva by TKO finish in Uruguay, Shevchenko Carmouche 2. And before that, gets a win in his UFC debut on a Sunsao Moraes 2 in Fortaleza, Brazil by split decision. Bontorin, though, not known for the striking. I mean, you saw in the Cachoeira France fight, he did get stopped in that one, but he did have some success on the feet. He really did in that first round. But in this fight, though, against Matt Schnell, again, two really good submission guys, two guys who want to get fights to the ground, and two guys who are really good jiu-jitsu players. Now, on the feet, they can get kind of wild, and I think that's what we might get here, but we'll look at that in a second. But Bontorin is usually trying to take fights to the ground. Will it be different against Matt Schnell? Maybe, but the game plan for Matt Schnell definitely might be different as well. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look out for in this one. Bontorin, though, coming to this fight with a record of 16-3, currently 2-2 in the UFC on that current 2-fight losing streak. Let's talk about his opponent here, though, in Matt Schnell. And Matt Schnell is coming off of that split decision fight most recently against Tyson Nam on Chiesa Magni in Abu Dhabi. It was a close fight. I thought Matt Schnell did do enough, though, to win that fight. The final scorecards for that one, you have got Matt Schnell 29-28 on two scorecards, and the other scorecard going 29-28, of course, for Tyson Nam. Before that, for Schnell, he does get KO'd by Alexandre Pantoja over in South Korea on the Edgar Korean Zombie card in December of 2019. Before that, he submits Jordan Espinoza with the triangle choke, Covington Lawler, Newark. Before that, beats Louis Smoka, who's fighting Sugar Sean O'Malley next. Okay, but Schnell submits Smoka by triangle in Wichita, Kansas. Of course, got to bring out that JDS accent right there. And before that, picks up a win by split decision over in Singapore. Cowboy Edwards beats Marco Beltran by unanimous decision, UFC 216, and then starts off his UFC career losing to Rob Font and to Hector Sandoval in back-to-back fights, both losing those by KO. And before that, he found Legacy winning their flyweight championship as well. Of course, he did fight on the Ultimate Fighter show, won his first fight against Matt Rizzo, submitted him, and then got submitted by the eventual winner of that show in Tim Elliott by guillotine choke in the quarterfinals of that show. Schnell, though, yeah, his striking is not amazing. It's really not. I mean, we've seen him get finished 3 times in the UFC by KO. Pantoja, Sandoval, Font, and I get it, Rob Font is about to fight Cody Garbrandt, and Rob Font is probably 1 fight away from a title shot, which is kind of weird saying that, but he probably is, or at least 2. And yeah, Pantoja is a great fighter as well. Say what you want about what he's been doing recently. He did lose to Askarov, and he did beat Manel Kopp in a fight where Kopp didn't really do anything, but Schnell is coming off the win over Tyson Nam, coming into this fight with a record of 15-5, and we know how good Matt Schnell's grappling is. His stand-up game is not well polished. Same with Bontorin, though. So I don't know what to expect here, because I doubt we will see this fight hit the mat. Like, every time you expect 2 good grapplers to fight and you expect them to grapple, they usually don't. I mean, the main examples of this one, I mean, the obvious one we can bring up is Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman. The other one, though, more recently, you get Mackenzie Dern, Vina, Janji Doba, and they basically strike for 15 minutes. I know that fight did hit the mat a couple more times than the Colby and Usman fight did, but you're probably going to see these 2 guys strike because both of them don't want to test out the other's ground game. So I think we're going to see a stand-up fight in this one, and you really forced me to pick a Bontorin versus Matt Schnell stand-up fight. I don't know. I mean, you might as well flip a coin for this one. All right, the coin's going with Matt Schnell. I think Schnell's grappling is going to be a little bit better than Bontorin in this one. I know Schnell will throw his head out there, and he's there to be hit multiple times. He's going to be there to... Bontorin's going to be able to hit Matt Schnell in this fight, but Matt Schnell's going to be able to hit Bontorin at the same time. Schnell brings kind of a wild pace when he is on the feet to start out fights, and I think Schnell is going to beat Bontorin in this one. Do I think we get a finish? Maybe. I'm gonna go Schnell by decision. It should be a good one. If this one does hit the mat, expect a lot of good scrambles, a lot of good transitions. It's gonna be a wild fight on the ground if it does happen, or you could just see a scenario where, hey, the better guy on the ground just dominates the entire time, and that's what you get for 15 minutes. So be on the lookout for that one. But for now, we're going with Matt Schnell to pick up the win by decision. Now we've got Andre Muniz taking on Jacare Souza. We're going to start first with Andre Muniz. His last fight is a win over Bartosz Fabinski, and he submits him in the first round in September. Good win for him, man. Armbar in the first round, and then before that, his first fight in the UFC is a win over Antonio Araujo by unanimous decision. Starts in the UFC, getting his shot by winning twice in the Contender Series as well. All right, Andre Muniz, tremendous grappler, 13 wins by submission in his career. Muniz is very good on the ground, and we know Jacare Souza is good on the ground as well. I know in the last fight I just said, hey, 2 grapplers kind of cancel each other out. We're probably going to see a stand-up fight. I don't see it happening. I really don't. Jacare pretty much tries to take everyone down. Basically, he will. I don't think Jacare is going to be scared of Andre Muniz's ground game, and that's nothing against Andre Muniz, but just think about the guys Jacare's fought in his last 10 fights or what. I mean, like, you got Yoel Romero, Vitor Belfort, Tim Boetsch, all right, that's one outlier, Robert Whittaker, Derek Brunson, Kelvin Gastelum, Chris Weidman, Jack Hermansson, Jan Blachowicz, Kevin Holland. Right? I mean, like, come on. Again, it's nothing against Andre Muniz. It is nothing against him. He is a good fighter, but this might be a levels fight. It might be. Muniz, though, he has all the skills to beat Jacare Souza. He does. He's got to catch Jacare in a submission, or he's got to try to knock him out in the first round. But Andre Muniz is not known for his stand-up game. He's not known for striking, and I don't think he's going to be laying on his back, kick up, and punch out Jacare Souza from his back like Kevin Holland did. That, knowing what we know now about Kevin Holland and his ground game, for now, Kevin Holland's not a good grappler. Jacare Souza, if he just avoided that weird interaction with Kevin Holland where Holland was talking about him about a dream that he had when he was 14 years old, and Kevin Holland pops up and knocks him out, like, if he didn't play into that, I think that Jacare was probably going to win that fight. And I picked Jacare, and this is coming from I'm a pretty big Kevin Holland fan. I picked him to beat Derek Brunson, and I was very close to picking him to beat Marvin Vettori by stunning KO in the first round. All right, I think Jacare still got enough to beat Andre Muniz. And again, I want to make this clear. This is nothing against Andre Muniz. I think the dude is a good fighter, coming off that win over Bartosz Fabinski, which Fabinski is, I mean, say what you want, a pretty tough guy to submit, and beating Antonio Araujo in your first fight is tough to do. I don't see how Muniz wins this fight. You're not submitting Jacare Souza. He's got to finish Souza on the feet by TKO, or he's going to try to out-wrestle Jacare and out-grapple him. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I know if you look at Jacare's last couple losses, it's Kevin Holland, but I just talked about the fight. Jan Blachowicz, it was a boring fight. It was a split decision fight, but Jan Blachowicz is the champion of the world. Jack Hermansson by decision. Well, Jack Hermansson is a good grappler and a very good striker as well, and he did catch Jacare with like an 8-punch combo in their fight. Muniz is not doing that. Chris Weidman, okay, Jacare beat Chris Weidman, and I know he was probably losing that fight until he knocked out Weidman, but still, Weidman, tremendous wrestler, All-American wrestler. Kelvin Gastelum, Jacare lost to. Again, Gastelum, tremendous wrestler, former Ultimate Fighter winner. Brunson, hey, Jacare won that fight. Robert Whitaker was the champion for like 3 years. I don't see how Jacare loses to Andre Muniz. I don't see a path on how Muniz beats Jacare. I think Jacare, on the feet, I think he's a little bit better than Andre Muniz, but I think Jacare is going to try to prove a point. I think he's going to try to submit Andre Muniz, because this is the narrative going into this fight. Andre Muniz is a younger version of Jacare Souza, and he's going to go in there, he's going to try to submit Jacare, and he's probably going to come out with the victory. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Jacare is going to come in there, immediately take down Muniz, and I think he's going to try to prove what he should have done to Kevin Holland, but wasn't able to do. Take him down, keep him down, and if he doesn't get a finish by submission, he's going to win a decision. I, however, though, feel confident that Jacare will probably get a submission in this one. And I think it's going to be a statement victory for, yes, the 41-year-old. Yeah, Jacare is 41 years old, but I think the 41-year-old Jacare Souza is going to finish Andre Muniz by submission in the first round. Bold pick, but we're going with it. Now we are onto the main card, and we start this one off with a banger. At 145 pounds, it is Shane Burgos and Edson Barboza. This is starting off the main card in Houston, Texas, and this is going to be a fun fight. This is going to be a very good fight between Burgos and Barboza, two guys who bring it on the feet. This fight will not hit it's not going to hit the mat. This is a stand-up fight all the way. I mean, this is going to be a banger. We're going to start first, though, with Edson Barboza. And Barboza's last fight, he did get back on track. He picked up a win against Makwan Amirkhani by unanimous decision over in Abu Dhabi on the Marais Sandhagen card. The scorecards for that one, you have got Edson Barboza 30-26, 30-27, and 29-28. Of course, all going to him in that one. All right, before that, he loses to Dan Ige in a fight where 110% Edson Barboza won that one, but somehow the judges thought Dan Ige won that one. I don't get it, but whatever. Before that, Barboza loses to Paul Felder in a fight where a lot of people had Barboza winning it, but I actually thought Felder won that one. Say what you want, I thought Felder won that fight. Before that, loses to Justin Gaethje. I mean, that happens to a lot of people. Gaethje knocked him out in the first round. John Anik, after Gaethje wins at USA, just at the top of his lungs. Cool, Gaethje won that fight. Before that, Barboza really picks apart Dan Hooker on Lehigh Quinton in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Know what we know now about Dan Hooker and how good that man really is. Such a good performance by Barboza. Before that, for Edson, loses to Kevin Lee in a main event. And before that, loses to Habib Nurmagomedov in one of the more, I wouldn't say brutal, but like just more dominant fights you're ever going to see. I mean, Barboza was on a 3-fight winning streak at the time, beating Anthony Pettis, Gilbert Melendez, and Beneil Dariush. And then Habib Nurmagomedov comes in there and 30-24s him. Right, so Edson Barboza, though, is still a tremendous striker. I mean, again, this fight, I'm not even going to talk about wrestling. I'm not going to talk about jiu-jitsu. We're not talking about none of that. This is a stand-up fight through and through. It's going to be a kickboxing battle. Edson Barboza, 21-9 in his career. But the man can still go. You saw in the Amirkhani fight, pretty dominant performance all around. But when Barboza does get in there with some of the better strikers in the weight class, he is losing as of late. I mean, just as of late, Barboza has lost, 5 out of his last 7 fights. A little bit concerning, and I know the names are Habib Nurmagomedov, Kevin Lee, Dan Hooker, Justin Gaethje, Paul Felder, Dan Ige, Mahmoud Amirkhani. Amirkhani, of course, not on the level of all those top 10 fighters, but Shane Burgos is another one of these top 10 fighters that is going to give Edson Barboza hell. And I know Barboza is now at featherweight. He is 1-1 at featherweight. He probably should be 2-0 because he did beat Dan Ige, but it's a tough fight because Burgos throws a lot and he has got heavy hands. Definitely. So that's Edson Barboza. Again, 21-9 coming into this fight. Let's talk about Burgos. And yeah, I'm pretty high on Shane Burgos. I think Shane Burgos is really good. Now, the Josh Emmett fight was, I think, one of the more underrated fights of the entire year. Don't know why people did not talk about that fight for Fight of the Year. Tremendous fight. Yes, Josh Emmett did get the job done on that one. I did have that one for Josh Emmett in the end, but I picked Burgos to win. And there's nothing bad about that fight for Shane Burgos. It was very competitive, a tremendous fight through and through. Before that, for Burgos, he beats guys such as Mahmoud Amirkhani, Connie, Cub Swanson, lose to Calvin Cater in a good fight, UFC 220. Really, that was a war. Eventually, Cater did get the job done in the third round by TKO. But before that, for Burgos, again, another big winning streak. Starts his UFC round with a 3-fight winning streak. Picks up win against Charles Rosa at UFC 210 in the third round by TKO. And also beat Bill Algeo over in Cage Fury in 2014. So those are the notable wins for Shane Burgos. Now, Burgos' ground game is pretty underrated. We don't see it that often because he's going to get into a lot of wars with different fighters, but it could play a factor in this one. I don't think so, though. I think Burgos is going to come in there and he's going to stay with Edson Barboza. Now, the reason why we didn't see Burgos try to hit the mat with Josh Emmett is because Emmett is a tremendous grappler. His wrestling is very good as well. But I think we're going to see Burgos and Barboza stand in this one, and it's going to be a war to open up the main card. It's who do you think is going to strike first? I'm going to go Shane Burgos just because he's the younger fighter out of the two. Now, Edson Barboza, he's been fighting for it forever. He's 35 years old. I think Burgos is going to find a way to get the job done in this one. This is going to be a very competitive fight, and I'm going with Shane Burgos to knock out Edson Barboza. Yeah, I think he does get the job done. Now, is it going to be a scenario like the Justin Gaethje fight with Barboza where it's a war for the first 2 minutes and then Gaethje puts away Barboza? I mean, just think about this. Gaethje and Barboza won fight of the night for a fight that lasted 2 minutes. Do I think we're going to see the same scenario? Potentially, but I think this fight will go on a little bit longer than that one-round fight. I think Burgos will get the job done in an amazing fight in the second round by KO. It should be a battle for how long it does last, but I do anticipate a finish in this one because these two guys are going to trade in the center of the octagon. A lot of kicks, a lot of strikes. It's going to be fun, but I'm going Burgos to pick up the win by second round KO. Now we've got Katlyn Chookagian taking on Viviane Araujo here. It is a top 5 fight here in the 125-pound weight class. I guess Araujo's not technically top 5 yet, but with the win here, she's going to be the number 2 contender, or maybe the number 1 contender. You don't know. But Chookagian and Araujo here. We're going to start first with Viviane. Her last fight was a win over Roxanne Modafferi in a fight that was not very competitive at all. Araujo bust Roxanne Modafferi's nose, I think, wide open in that one. And it wasn't really competitive at all. He got 30-27s across the board. One judge even gave it 30-26 for Araujo. Before that, she beats Montana De La Rosa in another fight that wasn't that competitive at all either. I mean, you got the scorecards to that one. You got 30-27s, and you got 29-28, of course, all for Araujo. And before that, she loses to Jessica Ai. Jessica Ai missed weight by 6 pounds in that fight, UFC 245. I mean, what you're going to do, right? Araujo loses that one. Before that, beats Alexis Davis, the former title challenger, by unanimous decision. Before that, picks up her UFC debut with a KO finish at UFC 237 at Nama Yunus versus Andrade. Araujo, though, good grappler and a good striker, too. Katlyn Chookagian is another one of these fighters that will kind of just do it all next. She can wrestle some, as you did see in the Antonina Shevchenko fight, and she can strike as well. You saw in you saw that in the Cynthia Calvillo fight. It's a very even fight for the 125-pound weight class. And now, the stakes for Araujo couldn't be any higher because with the win here, you're probably not looking at a title shot because you're looking at the title shot probably for the winner of Lauren Murphy and Joanne Calderwood. But for Araujo here, if she picks up a win over Katlyn Chookagian, you might be looking at a fight with maybe even Jessica Andrade. Hell, maybe Marina Rodriguez comes back and fights at 125 again if she wants to come back to 125. Because if Rodriguez picks another win at 125, you're looking at a title shot for her. So who knows? But Araujo here, it's a big fight for her. She can beat Chookagian on the ground. I do think that it could be the case. She can beat her on the feet as well. We did see Katlyn Chookagian lose to Jessica Andrade by TKO, but again, no one holds the power Jessica Andrade has on the feet at 125. And I don't think she's gonna catch Katlyn Chookagian with just a massive body shot. But yeah, Araujo, good fighter, coming to this fight the record of 10-2. Let's talk about her opponent here, in Katlyn Chookagian. Now, just something to get out the way here. If you're putting money on this fight and you're picking Katlyn Chookagian, just pick it by decision because she's not gonna damn finish. I mean, Katlyn Chookagian, she's got 2 wins by KO in her career, 1 by submission, and 12 by decision. Those 2 KO wins come in World Series of Fighting in 2014, and then the other one comes in CFFC for the Women's Bantamweight Championship. She won by a knee, and then the submission win comes in Hungarian Fighting Championship in 2015. Yeah, I don't think Katlyn Chookagian's getting a finish in this one, but since Katlyn Chookagian did come to the UFC, she's been fighting the best of the best. You got Lauren Murphy, you got Liz Carmouche, you got Irene Aldana, you got Alexis Davis, you got Jessica Ai, you got Jojo Calderwood, Jennifer Maia, Antonina Shevchenko, Valentina Shevchenko, Jessica Andrade, Cynthia Calvillo. I mean, those are the staples of the 125-pound weight division. It really is. I mean, Chookagian is fighting the best fighters you could possibly fight at 125 pounds, and Araujo is another one of these fighters. I mean, Chookagian, though, has been around. She UFC has seen these very good fighters at 125. She's been around and she's fought all these up-and-coming fighters that you think are gonna fight for the title soon at 125, and she's beat them. Joanne Calderwood's one of them. The other one's Jennifer Maia. I mean, UFC 244, and I know that was in the very early prelims, I do believe, of that card. I mean, they're doing Ariel and the bad guy up in the rafters of that card. They're talking, it's the pre-show between Chael Sonnen and Helwani. They're just talking about Diaz and Masvidal when you got Katlyn Chookagian out there fighting Jojo Calderwood and winning, but Chookagian's fought the best of the best and fought the fighters that you think were going to get a title shot. Another example, Cynthia Calvillo. Cynthia Calvillo comes in there, she beats Jessica Eye in the main event, and then Katlyn Chookagian, one month after getting KO'd by Jessica Andrade, comes back and beats Cynthia Calvillo by decision on UFC 255. It was on the main card. I think Katlyn Chookagian, if she's beat all these fighters like Cynthia Calvillo, she's beat Antonina Shevchenko, she's beat Jennifer Maia, Joanne Calderwood, I don't think Araujo is going to be any different. I think Katlyn Chookagian, she's like maybe the best gatekeeper in the UFC, considering she's still the #2 contender. She's probably not getting a title shot anytime soon because she just lost to Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, she's a really good gatekeeper, and she's probably going to beat Araujo as well. I think she's going to get the job done. Now, they're doing a title eliminator. They're doing a #1 contenders fight between Lauren Murphy and Joanne Calderwood. Two fighters Katlyn Chookagian has already beat. Katlyn Chookagian, again, could be the best gatekeeper ever, but there's also Jessica Andrade, who just got dominated by Shevchenko, and if Andrade is going to keep fighting, she'll most likely always be the #1 contender, because she's probably going to beat everyone else in the weight class, and she'll probably never fight Valentina again, because Jessica Andrade lost to Katlyn Chookagian, or lost to Valentina Shevchenko in a worse way than Chookagian lost to Shevchenko. It just shows you the levels in this weight class and how much better Valentina is than everyone else. But back to my prediction, I'm going with Katlyn Chookagian by decision. Nothing different. I think she uses her striking to her advantage this one. She uses her kicks. Definitely, I think she used her range to beat Araujo in this one. I think Araujo's good, but Jessica Eye beat her. Katlyn Chookagian's she's gonna use her distance well in this one. She might use her wrestling if she has to, but I don't think she probably will, because Araujo's jiu-jitsu very good as well. Now, Araujo does have a lot of power for 125, so yeah, she might be able to stun Katlyn Chookagian. But I think Katlyn Chookagian is going to know that coming into this fight. She's going to use her distance effectively, and I'm going with her to win this one by decision. Now we've got Edmund Shahbazyan and Jack Hermansson. How this fight was originally supposed to be on the ESPN prelims, I do not know, but this is a banger of a fight. It is a good fight. I'm going to start first with Edmund Shahbazyan. Last fight against Derek Brunson. Now, he was a pretty heavy favorite to win that one. He did not get the job done. Derek Brunson dominated him in that fight. Probably should have the finish in the second round. Herb Dean was like, yeah, Shahbazyan, you can get up. Let's go to the third round. And yeah, that fight ended like very quickly. I mean, again, good stoppage kind of by Herb Dean. Probably should have been stopped in the second round, but Herb Dean knew in the third round. All right, one big punch that Shahbazyan does take here. This fight's over. Brunson hits him with one right. It's over. Saved Shahbazyan from taking a lot more damage, even though, again, he probably shouldn't have made it out the corner, but head movement, let's move on. Shahbazyan, before the Brunson fight, though, does pick up a win over Brad Tavares. He head kicks him on UFC 244. Before that, beats Jack Marshman by Rene Kachoke, and then before that, TKO's Charles Bird, and in his UFC debut, beats Darren Stewart by split decision. Shahbazyan is coming into this fight with a record of 11-1, but, like, I like Shahbazyan. I think he's an up-and-coming fighter. I think he's going to be very good. I don't know why they're giving him Jack Hermansson after losing to Derek Brunson. Are we forgetting how good Jack Hermansson really is, though? I know both these guys coming off of main event spots. Now, one of them was a 3-round fight. The Shahbazyan-Brunson fight was only scheduled for 3. Hermansson versus Vettori was a 5-round fight. But, hey, Shahbazyan, again, he's still good, but I just don't like the matchup for Shahbazyan here, because think about it. How does he really beat Jack Hermansson? All right, well, he's probably going to have to knock him out in the first round. That's really the only way I see Shahbazyan winning this fight. Like, Hermansson is a good striker. Don't forget how good of a striker Hermansson is. And yeah, like, I know he's not, okay, compared to guys such as Jared Cannonier and Marvin Vettori, okay, he's not great compared to those guys, but compared to Edmund Shahbazyan, I'm not sold on Shahbazyan at all, dude. I am not sold on him just yet, and I was kind of before the Brunson fight, but that was a big, okay, Brunson is kind of a gatekeeper as well. I don't think he's ever going to challenge for a title, if I'm being honest with ourselves here, but like, Hermansson and Shahbazyan here. Hermansson, if this fight stays on the feet, I do like Hermansson still to beat Edmund Shahbazyan, and I know Shahbazyan did knock out Brad Tavares, but it's Brad Tavares, who's a solid fighter, but not on the level of Jack Hermansson. Hermansson's a pretty good chin as well. And yeah, I think Jack Hermansson's going to win this fight. I think I gave that away pretty early in this one, though. But, like, Hermansson's striking is... Now, if these two were just to kickbox for the entire fight, would Shahbazyan win? Maybe. But there's always the threat of the takedown. And you saw Derek Brunson take down Edmund Shahbazyan, and you did see Derek Brunson beat Shahbazyan on the feet as well. It's going to be the same case for Jack Hermansson. I don't know why this fight was scheduled. I just don't see why it was. And is this fight somewhat even on the odds? This is a levels fight. Evan Shahbazyan's young. He's 23 years old. Why are you throwing him in back-to-back fights with Derek Brunson and Jack Hermansson? I do not know. Hermansson's got the advantage on the feet, I think very slightly. Because of the throw of the takedown, it sets up Jack Hermansson's striking, and of course Hermansson's got the advantage on the ground. I think this is going to be a dominant performance for Jack Hermansson. I mean, call this a bold pick, but I think after 3 rounds, if this fight does go 3 rounds, you're going to be thinking to yourself, why the hell was this fight scheduled? Because I think Jack Hermansson is going to dominate Evan Shahbazyan in this fight. Jack Hermansson wins by late 3rd round TKO, ground and pound on the ground. Hermansson, early in this fight, I think will have some success on the feet, eventually take it to the ground, work his ground game against Evan Shahbazyan, and basically just follow the game plan that Derek Brunson had against Shahbazyan. It worked really well. We haven't seen Shahbazyan in that much trouble in his entire career. Well, hell, he lost the fight for the first time in his career. I just don't like the matchmaking at all for Shahbazyan, because if you feel like Shahbazyan should be fighting a guy outside of the top 15 to work his way back up. Jack Hermansson is a top 10 fighter who, if he beat Marvin Vettori, you might be looking at Hermansson versus Adesanya next month. I like Hermansson to win this one. I really think so. I think you're going to see takedowns early in this one. I think you're going to see some success for Hermansson as well in the feet in the first round. Second round, going to be takedowns, dominance on the ground. Yeah, Jack Hermansson wins this fight, and he wins it by 3rd round TKO on the ground. Now it is time for the co-main event of the evening. It is El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson taking on Beneil Dariush. We're going to start first here with Beneil Dariush, currently on a big winning streak. Well, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty big winning streak. I mean, you got guys such as Thiago Moises, Drew Dober, Frank Camacho, Dakar Close, Scott Holtzman, Carlos Diego Ferreira, and I know it's something names at Tony Ferguson's spot, but it's still a pretty big winning streak for Dariush's last fight was a loss to his last loss was a fight against Alexander Hernandez, UFC 222. He gets knocked out in about 40 seconds in that fight, but that was a very long time ago. And yeah, Dariush has been really good recently. And I know he did miss weight in the Scott Holtzman fight, but he's spinning back fist him. I mean, like, he knocked him out early or pretty late in the first round. It was a good finish. Now, the Carlos Diego Ferreira fight, I know Diego Ferreira just fought Gregor Gillespie most recently in a fight that he had in the first round. I mean, he had Gillespie, and then in the second round, somehow, I mean, Gillespie, again, with his gas tank, the best fisherman in the UFC, ended up beating Carlos Diego Ferreira in that second round. But I don't get how Diego Ferreira versus Beneil Dariush was a split decision. That was a pretty obvious win for Dariush. He used his striking really well. He beat Diego Ferreira on the feet. I didn't like the scorecards in that one, but Dariush still got the job done. How does he beat Tony Ferguson? Well, you're probably not going to see Dariush try to take down Ferguson. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not going to be a repeat of the Charles Oliveira Tony Ferguson fight. It's going to be a stand-up fight, and we're going to get to see Tony's stand-up game basically for the first time since the Justin Gaethje fight, because we really didn't see in the Charles Oliveira fight. It was just Oliveira takedowns for days on Ferguson and controlling him on the mat. So we're not going to see the Tony Ferguson struggling on the ground, almost getting his arm broken by Beneil Dariush. It's not going to happen. This is going to be a stand-up fight, and we're going to see how good Tony is now. Because we haven't seen a great Tony Ferguson since the Donald Cowboy Cerrone fight. And if you really want to be picky, you can say you haven't seen a great Tony Ferguson since the Anthony Pettis fight, because a lot of people thought Cowboy won that first round against Tony Ferguson. And if it wasn't for Tony Ferguson punching Cowboy after the bell, hey, maybe you got 1-1 going into the third. Right? So we haven't seen a truly prime great El Cucuy since the Anthony Pettis fight. We will see, but Beneil Dariush, now nothing against the guy, but Tony Ferguson's been fighting champions in and out of the octagon. I know Beneil Dariush is an up-and-coming guy. He's asking for a big-name fighter. He's number 9 in the world right now, and this is the fight that he needs. I mean, this is the breakout fight that Beneil Dariush has been waiting for. But Ferguson, I mean, look at the last fights. You got champions. Rafael Dos Anjos, got a former title challenger in Kevin Lee. You got Anthony Pettis, former champion. Donald Cowboy Cerrone, former title challenger. Gaethje, former champion. Charles Oliveira's got a chance to be the world champion later on in this card. But if Dariush can apply the pressure on Tony Ferguson, do what Gaethje did to Ferguson, and it's very tough to do because we've never seen Tony Ferguson in that basically in that trouble on the feet in his entire career. If Dariush can do that, though, Ferguson's gonna probably be, I mean, 0-3 in his last 3, who knows? But Dariush has a lot of power for a 155 pounder. You saw it in the Scott Holtzman fight. I know he did miss weight in that one. He was over by 2 pounds, but still in the Dakar close fight, we've seen Beneil Dariush take a lot of damage in his fights and just come back all of a sudden. I mean, the prime example is the Dakar close fight. Go watch that fight if you have not yet. It looks like Dariush is going to be done. Dakar close is walking him down, and all of a sudden Dariush comes back, and that's where you get the meme from Rogan, Anakin DC going absolutely nuts. That's from a Beneil Dariush finish, and he can do the exact same thing to Tony Ferguson, because he can be in some damn trouble, and he can definitely come back. But the same thing is the case for Tony Ferguson. That's why he's El Cucuy. So that's Beneil Dariush coming into this fight with a record of 20 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw. Let's talk about the former interim champion in Tony Ferguson. So, Tony Ferguson, yeah, what do you want me to say about the last 2 fights? It's pretty self-explanatory. He was not good in the Charles Oliveira fight. He was not good in the Justin Gaethje fight. Now, is Tony Ferguson over the hill? Is he not great? Or is it just, hey, Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira might be the two best 155 pounders in the world right now? You just don't know. Don't forget that just 1 year ago, or a little bit over 1 year ago. I mean, what is the day right now? It is, I'm recording this on May 10th. Okay, yeah, just about a year ago, people thought that Tony Ferguson was still the guy to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. And that fight was supposed to happen for, what, the 6th time? We thought that we were getting El Cucuy versus Khabib. I believe it was supposed to be in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken, before everything shut down. It was supposed to be in the Barclays Center. And a lot of people still thought that Tony Ferguson was the guy, because, hey, if Khabib takes him down, Ferguson's so good off his back. He wants to be on his back. He uses his elbows well. He's gonna make Khabib see his own blood in his fight. It didn't happen. Don't forget that was only a year ago when people still thought that Tony Ferguson was the best 155 pounder in the world. And the only reason why Khabib was the champion is because he hadn't seen El Cucuy yet. 1 year can change a lot, man. 2 fights can change a lot. And there's nothing to talk about with Tony Ferguson before the Gaethje fight. I really just don't think there is. I think we've seen a different Ferguson since the end of that Cowboy fight. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Yeah, he was not great in the Cowboy fight, but it looked like Ferguson was probably going to win that fight in the 3rd round. He was turning it on in the 2nd. Didn't look great in the 1st round, but in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, Ferguson was most likely going to end up winning that fight. He looked very good in the Anthony Pettis fight. Don't get me wrong, that was a tremendous fight. UFC 229. Looked good in the Kevin Lee fight to win the interim championship. But the Gaethje fight, I mean, what the hell, man? Yeah, Gaethje is a tremendous striker, but Ferguson had no answers for Justin Gaethje. And speaking of no answers, he had 0 answers against Charles Oliveira. Oliveira, constant pressure on the ground. Ferguson just couldn't get up, and it looked like he was going to break his damn arm. I mean, hell, Oliveira had him. Just go watch the end of the 1st round. Charles Oliveira with that deep armbar, and Ferguson just does not give a damn. I mean, he didn't tap, but we haven't seen the same Tony Ferguson since he cut weight 2 weeks before fighting Justin Gaethje. Before Ferguson cut weight twice in a month. Man, it is a tough fight to call, because I definitely can see Beneil Dariush coming in here, and I'm not going to say finishing Tony Ferguson because it's so tough to do so, especially in a 3-round environment, but I could see Beneil Dariush come into this fight and just dominate Ferguson on the feet for 3 rounds. But I could also see Tony Ferguson coming into this one, using his wrestling and maybe putting away Beneil Dariush on the ground, or just using his striking, using his elbows on the feet, using a lot of different attacks on the feet, and Ferguson getting the job done. You just don't know. You just do not know how this one is going to play out. And I'm going to pick Tony Ferguson again. I think Ferguson is going to get the job done. I think he's going to be... okay, it's make or break for Tony Ferguson at this point. If he's ever going to want to be the champion again, and again, it's going to be tough for him considering the last 2 fights, but this is it for Tony Ferguson. He's got to win this fight. It is make or break in the career for Tony Ferguson. Back against the wall, I think Ferguson is going to get the job done. I think he's going to be able to outwork Dariush on the feet. I wouldn't say this is a levels fight, because Dariush is a very good fighter, but I think Ferguson is going to be able to do just a little bit more than Beneil Dariush in this one. Do I think he gets a finish? No, but I think he gets the job done on the feet in a very good fight, but I think Ferguson will get the job done. So it is time for the main event of the evening. It is for the lightweight championship of the world. Charles Oliveira taking on Michael Chandler. I can't believe I just said that sentence. Michael Chandler is fighting for a UFC championship this weekend. I never thought that was going to happen. I mean, Mr. Bellator Michael Chandler is fighting for a world championship in the UFC. Incredible, but this is a good fight, folks. This is a tremendous fight. Michael Chandler, though, The last fight against Dan Hooker, holy crap, the pressure that Michael Chandler put on Dan Hooker. Hooker could never get going in that one. I know it was only 2 minutes, but constant pressure from Michael Chandler. Eventually, he fakes the body shot, comes up with the right, puts down Dan Hooker, and yeah, gets the job done. He kind of goes for a guillotine. Eventually, decides, I'm just going to keep punching, puts away Dan Hooker in the first round. I mean, Bellator, Michael Chandler was great as well. I know he does have the loss to Patricio Pitbull at Bellator 221 in Illinois. But, I mean, Pitbull, again, I'm going to mention him a little bit later in this video. But, I mean, Chandler lost pretty early in that fight. What you gonna say, man? I mean, the man was he was a long rating Bellator lightweight champion. Actually, well, I mean, he won it a couple times, won 3 different times. But yeah, Chandler most recently after the Pitbull fight, he beat Sidney Outlaw, and then after that, he beats Benson Henderson. He knocks him out in the first round at Bellator 243. And then, of course, signs to be the replacement fighter for Gaethje and Nurmagomedov. Doesn't eventually get that fight because, of course, both of these guys made weight. Then beats Dan Hooker. Hey, man. Michael Chandler he is one punch away from winning this world title. It is a good fight for Michael Chandler. It is, because I think Michael Chandler is going to dictate where this fight is going to take place. I think he's going to, because Charles Oliveira, of course, wants to be on the ground. But it's tough to take down Michael Chandler. I mean, Michael Chandler, tremendous wrestler, very damn good wrestler. He went to, of course, University of Missouri, and he's a tremendous NCAA wrestler. It's tough to take that guy down. And I don't think Charles Oliveira is going to be able to take down Michael Chandler. Is he going to pull guard? I don't think he's going to. I think Chandler, again, dictates where this fight's going to go. And you're damn right. I don't think Michael Chandler is going to take down Charles Oliveira. It's not going to happen. Chandler's going to try to stand with Charles Oliveira. And that's his best shot at winning this fight. And yes, Charles Oliveira is a pretty good kickboxer. He does throw a lot of good kicks, a lot of good front kicks, and he can get finishes on the feet. But it's not what he's known for. You saw Paul Felder put away Charles Oliveira. I mean, it is a tough fight for Oliveira, and I see that Oliveira is the favorite. I don't know about that one, man. Michael Chandler is good, and I know people are, okay, he just beat Dan Hooker, but I mean, man, Michael Chandler's power is unlike any other at the 155-pound division. I mean, again, Chandler's jiu-jitsu, if he gets into a pure jiu-jitsu fight with Charles Oliveira, yeah, he probably will lose, but how will Oliveira get the fight in the ground? Because you got to think at some point in this fight, Oliveira is trying to take down Michael Chandler, who's going to try to pull guard, try to work the clinch, trying to just somehow get Chandler on the ground. I don't think Michael Chandler will allow that to happen. I just don't think he's going to allow that to happen. I think he's going to stand with Charles Oliveira, and you're going to get a striking fight with Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. And I mean, Chandler was known for being a wrestler, but more recently, getting the KO finishes on the feet. Benson Henderson, Dan Hooker, the two best examples of that. That's Michael Chandler, though, man. Mr. Bellator coming into this fight with a record of 22 wins and 5 losses. Let's talk about his opponent here in Charles Oliveira. So I've already laid it out. I mean, Charles Oliveira, I don't think he's going to win a striking fight with Michael Chandler. I don't think he's going to. I know he throws, again, a lot of good kicks at Oliveira. He's a solid kickboxer, but when it compares to Michael Chandler, I just don't see how he beats him on the feet. I just don't see how he does that. He's got to get this one on the ground. And again, how do we get this one on the ground? Charles Oliveira, I think he's got to pull guard. I don't think he's going to take down Michael Chandler. Chandler's takedown defense is very good. Yeah, you saw Oliveira get Kevin Lee to the ground. You saw him guillotine him. Good win. He beats Tony Ferguson by dominating him on the ground. Other than that, who has Charles Oliveira really beat? I mean, Nick Lentz. Okay, he does finish Nick Lentz. He does finish Jared Gordon, both by KO. Beats David Taymor. Beats Jim Miller. I mean, beats Clay Guida. Loses to Paul Felder. Beats Will Brooks. Loses to Ricardo Lamas. Loses to Anthony Pettis. I mean, we're now getting into 2016, but I mean, Oliveira's got to take down Michael Chandler to win this fight. I don't see a path to victory for Charles Oliveira in a stand-up fight against Michael Chandler. I don't see it happening. Now, Oliveira's jiu-jitsu, though, if he does get Chandler to the ground, Oliveira's chances of winning this fight go from about 20% all the way up to, I would say, 85%. Unless Michael Chandler can work his ground and pound and work his mount positioning in this one, Oliveira on his back is as dangerous as any other man in the promotion. And on top, on Top Game, he's as dangerous as anyone else as well. If Oliveira can get this one to the ground, he's probably going to win this fight. It's that simple. And usually this is not the case when we're talking about a Michael Chandler fight. It's, well, hey, Chandler's good on the feet. He's got some power, but can you out-volume him on the feet? When it comes to Charles Oliveira, yeah, he possibly could, but I just don't see that one happening. So it's usually, okay, can you outstrike Chandler on the feet by out-voluming him, or can you knock him out really early? The example of that one, Patricio Pitbull. That's how Pitbull got the job done. Now knocked out Michael Chandler in the first minute of their fight. Chandler did not like the stoppage in that one. It was a pretty good stoppage. Pitbull did get the job done in that one. I don't see Oliveira knocking out Michael Chandler in the first round. If this fight stays on the feet, Michael Chandler, tremendous cardio. He can go for a very long time, and he will throw power shots for 25 minutes if he has to. It is a tough fight for Oliveira, but at the same time, it's a tough fight for Michael Chandler. Because again, if Oliveira gets this one on the ground, he's got the job done. I think so. I really think he does. Because Chandler, again, he's solid on the ground, but no one will compare to Charles Oliveira on the ground in this 155 weight class. Currently, I know I said currently because somewhere is Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib is never coming back. Trust me with that one. Charles Oliveira, though, coming to this fight with a record of 30 wins and 8 losses, though, currently on that big winning streak of 8 fights. He does hold the UFC record for the most submission wins. And yeah, I mean, this is such a close fight to call, man. It really is. And I'm going Michael Chandler. Yeah, I think Michael Chandler becomes the UFC champion. I know, right? Michael Chandler is going to become the UFC champion. I think he gets the job done. First round knockout for Michael Chandler. I don't think I talked heavily about, okay, what happens if this fight doesn't get to the ground? Does Oliveira have the obvious advantage? I think yes, he does. And does Chandler dictate where this fight takes place? Yeah, he does too. Michael Chandler's going to come out in this first round, and we are going to see maybe just a complete replica of what happened in the Dan Hooker fight. It is going to be pressure from Michael Chandler. He's going to cut that octagon in half. He's going to pressure Charles Oliveira, and he's not going to allow Oliveira to take him down. He's not going to allow Oliveira to pull guard on him. He is going to pressure him back against the fence, and he is going to throw punches and bunches. He's going to throw a lot of them. He's going to work the body. He's going to work the head. He's going to throw feints. You saw that in the Dan Hooker fight. That's how we got the job done. Fake the body shot. Boom, came over with the right to the top. Put down Dan Hooker. And now if he does put down Charles Oliveira, you might see it. He might not fall him to the ground. He might knock him down, and he's going to stand right back up. And I think Michael Chandler is going to knock down Charles Oliveira twice in this fight. He's going to knock him down early in the first round. He's going to finish him in later in that first round as well. I'm going Michael Chandler. First round TKO finish, KO finish. First round KO finish for Michael Chandler. I'm going to say it's about 3 minutes into the first round. I'm pretty confident in this one, folks. I truly think Michael Chandler dictates where this fight's going to take place, and it's going to take place on the feet. You're damn right, Michael Chandler is not going to try to beat Charles Oliveira on the ground. It would be stupid of him to do so. Michael Chandler KOs Charles Oliveira in the first round. And yeah, see you at the top. Michael Chandler is going to become the UFC lightweight champion of the world. Oh my goodness. And now where do you go from here? Is Michael Chandler fighting Justin Gaethje? Dana White, apparently that's what's next. The winner of this fight is fighting Justin Gaethje for the title. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see Chandler and Gaethje. I would be so excited for that fight, but according to Michael Chandler, he's saying, hey, I won this fight. I'm fighting the winner of Poirier and McGregor. And you know damn well Michael Chandler wants to fight Conor McGregor because, hey, that's a fight that stylistically works out pretty well for Michael Chandler because you know his wrestling's so damn good. He's probably going to try to wear down Conor McGregor and take him down for 5 rounds. And obviously, it's the money fight as well. And Dustin Poirier is a tough fight for Michael Chandler. And we'll get to that fight if we get there. But there's 3 fights, 3 options for Chandler or Oliveira after a win in this one. It's Gaethje on a quick turnaround. That's probably what seems the most likely. They get the Gaethje fight quick with the winner of this one. And then the winner of the Gaethje versus the winner of this fight takes on Conor or Poirier probably in the winter. That's the most likely scenario. Or it's just go straight ahead and fight either Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor. Now, my last point. The UFC's got to get Pitbull. They got to get Patricio Pitbull now. I know he's locked on to Bellator. He's going to fight AJ McKee for the World Championship over there in the Grand Prix final, but they need to find a way to get Patricio Pitbull because if the UFC wants to stay the #1 organization in the world, they got to find a way to get Pitbull because Bellator can now say, all right, we've got the guy who beat Michael Chandler, and it's that simple, man. I mean, it's what they gotta do, and you've seen this most recently. There's a lot of guys who are, big time fighters in the UFC, and some of them have been over the hill. But Demetrius Johnson is the biggest point I can make with this one. You got fighters in the UFC who are champions and who no one could ever finish them in the UFC, and you go to another promotion and they get KO'd. Again, Mighty Mouse going into one championship. He's 3-0, fights for the title. Adriano Moraes knees him in the face while he was down, which is kind of weird because the UFC's bantamweight champion won the championship after an illegal knee to a grounded opponent. But still, Moraes KOs Mighty Mouse with a knee. And look at that. No one was able to do that in the UFC. Not Henry Cejudo, not I mean, there's a lot of big fighters that Money Mouse fight. I mean, not just Joseph Benavides, not Ray Borg. I mean, there's a lot of good fighters that Money Mouse did fight. No one was able to finish him, like Adriano Moraes. And I know I'm getting on a little bit of a rant here, and it's going off the rails, but still, the UFC's got to find a way to get Patricio Pitbull if Michael Chandler wins this fight. Hell, even if Charles Oliveira wins this fight, they got to get Pitbull some way, somehow. But I do believe he's locked into that Bellator contract for a very long time, so we're going to have to wait and see for that. But folks, thank y'all for watching this hour-long UFC 262 preview and predictions video here on the channel. Again, we're going with Iron Michael Chandler to win the World Championship. Yeah, we're doing it, folks. See you at the top. Michael Chandler's winning the belt. And folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more if you have not yet. And thank y'all for watching. And Mamba forever.